The Kick-Off Breakfast Show.
Welcome back to the Kick-Off Sports Breakfast Show, and we have been without sport lately, of course, but it hasn't made us stop thinking about it, and one person that has been writing about it for a while now, but releasing books of late, is Jamie Wall. G'day, Jamie.
Hey, bro. How you been?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long time. We used to work at the bank together, and now you're a rugby author and sports journalist. Mate, how's life been?
Yeah, and you're on the radio. Look at us. Eh?
Look at us.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been working as a sports journalist, mostly covering the All Blacks for the last 4 years full time. So that's my job, is to go around the world and watch the All Blacks. So I can't complain, I guess. And managed to do a few books along the way. So it's been a pretty interesting journey.
It has, mate. Now, take me through those years when let's go a decade ago, where you were starting to write, you were starting to put out little snippets here and there, which has grown. How did you take your passion of being a rugby player and watching rugby, and then putting words to action?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I was living in Wellington, obviously I grew up down in Wellington, and I got a little bit of a break from a guy in my team who worked for the Dominion Post at the time, who passed my name on to Toby Robson, who used to work at Don Post as well. Now he works at NZ Rugby, and he got me on, and this is like the most cliched thing ever. I literally started writing the club rugby reports for the Dominion Post that used to be in on the Monday mornings?
Yes.
Was it Saturday? I can't remember. Anyway.
No, it was always Monday mornings.
So I started doing the Premier match reports on Monday morning, and Toby was really supportive of that, and he said, like, hey, you're actually you're pretty good at this. You should think about maybe doing a bit more. He couldn't really offer me anything like at the time, but I thought, like, what's the best way to get from here to where I was, which was working. I was working at BNZ at the time, and I thought the best way to get there would be perhaps to go through study advertising, and then somehow end up working for a team or a union or something like that. And so I moved to Auckland. I studied at Media Design School up here for a year in 2012. It was an amazing year, and then I learnt like heaps of stuff, and it sort of indirectly gave me all these ideas of how I would sort of do sports writing. And I worked in an advertising agency for a year after that, and then got myself just covering like Super Rugby and the All Blacks for an American website way back then, because I thought to myself, well, here's a place to start. They're Americans, like I'm in New Zealand, so I know that they're going to be happy to have a sort of New Zealand perspective, and I did that, and they were really good guys, and they gave me a real free hand of what I could write. And I remember I looked up some of my earlier stuff like not that long ago, because I was looking for something that I'd written like way back. Yeah. And honestly, like I was writing so much, like 2,000 word recaps of like Super Rugby games on the weekend and stuff, and I was like, This is a really good way to start, because I could just start off doing something really huge and then whittle it down, and I think that there's a thing when you're writing, and I'm sure people have probably heard it quite a bit, which is that you got to find your voice, and it's I think it might be the same, on radio as well. You find your way of doing things, and it took me a while. I'd say it probably took a good sort of couple of years, and I focused on kind of few outside the box issues. I became quite critical of New Zealand rugby and sort of decisions that they'd made. There was a few hot button issues sort of back then. If you remember correctly, it was when they kind of got AIG on board, and everybody was kind of worried that the All Blacks were going to get kind of sold off as this corporate commodity.
Yes.
Which they actually did within a couple of years. They were playing in the United States. And so I just kind of kept on that. And then I got a really big break in 2015. Obviously, the World Cup was happening there, and someone at RNZ had read my stuff for this little American website and offered me the opportunity to cover do opinion pieces for the World Cup, and they originally said, "Oh, we'll do sort of like one a week when the All Blacks play," and I said, "Oh, "Yep, that sounds good." And then the Springboks went and lost to Japan, and I remember I got a phone call like really early morning. I hadn't got up to watch that game, and it was the editor saying like, "Hey, look, you need to write something about this game. Can you get it to me as fast as possible?" And I didn't even know what game he was talking about, and I was like, yeah, no problem. And so I quickly went in. They're like, "Oh man, this is the biggest upset in like ever."
Yeah. And
quickly bashed out a piece in about 20 minutes and got it up. And then after that, they said, "Oh, that went really well. Like, do you want to just do something every day?" And so that's what I did. And I was working my day job as well. And then I stuck with them ever since. And I did some other work for a website called The Spinoff as well, and another website called Rugby Pass. And then everything kind of changed in 2017 when I was able to sort of travel with the team, and I'd sort of position myself in a place where I could go away and film and capture audio and everything, and then sell it back to media outlets back in New Zealand, and it's just been fantastic. Like ever since
Awesome.
And it sort of culminated. I'd set myself a goal of making it to the 2019 World Cup, which I did. I spent 8 weeks in Japan last year. Got to go to all the All Blacks games, a couple other ones as well. I ended up going to the World Cup final, which I thought was going to be this fantastic occasion, but obviously
a bit different.
me and everybody, all the other New Zealanders were like, "Why are we even here?"
Yeah.
But it was still an amazing thing to be able to say, is that you've been at something like that, and to just go through that whole experience and come back. And along the way, I've been really fortunate as well to be offered a couple of book deals. And so I released first 2 books last year, and got another one coming up in August.
Yeah, let's talk about those books now. And quickly, shout out to Toby Robson, very, very good man. And my first radio hosting job was the Club Rugby on Radio Sport as well. So there you go. But let's talk about those books now. The first one that came out, Brothers in Black. What did you learn from Brothers? Because my best mates are brothers. They played international rugby, not for the black jersey, but they're very competitive, and they're always there to help each other out, but also the one-upmanship. So how was that experience writing that book?
Yeah, it was really interesting because you'd think that obviously the guys, who were those guys, by the way?
Thomas and Scott Waldron.
Oh, the Waldron, yeah, of course. And you'd think guys like that would have a really natural, competitiveness with each other, and then they'd really go at each other the whole time. Like if you're around about the same age and you're playing rugby,
yeah.
And I thought that would be the common theme throughout the book, but it's actually not. There's a surprisingly high amount of guys that didn't really kind of reflect that very much as well. Like I think the main ones would be Graham and Stephen Bashett. Like they seem to get on pretty well, but they ended up playing most of their rugby apart from one another. They played their whole careers for different teams and only came and played together in the All Blacks and for one season in 1994. And sort of their careers didn't really kind of overlap that much. And then you had, you've got guys like the Wettons, who are twins, the only twins that have ever played for the All Blacks, who just had this incredible, it's just like the complete opposite of that, where they played pretty much every game they played was together.
Exactly.
As well. So just because guys are brothers, they're not going to have the same experience. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And also the experience that a lot of the guys have had, especially in the amateur area, had outside of rugby as well, really kind of shaped their characters. But what I really wanted to do with that book was just use the brothers theme is more of a framing device to kind of tell the history of New Zealand rugby, because all the way back, right until the actual first ever New Zealand representative team, there have been brothers in the team, right up until now. Obviously, we've got 3 of them in the team. And you're actually kind of hard-pressed to find a decent amount of time between, where guys weren't. There wasn't a set of brothers in the side. And I think, over the last decade, we've had, 4 sets. Like there's the Barretts, the Whitelocks, the Franks, and the Savia brothers. So it's crazy, that amount of people and that amount of families have produced so many All Blacks and contributed so well. And I think it just it's really heartening that if you're a rugby player, you're generally going to do well if you come out of a rugby family. Yeah. Like everyone's involved, because the one thing I found that was constant throughout the whole thing is getting really massive support from their parents and their other siblings as well. And that's, I think that there's something really positive to be learned out of that if you're going to take young players, that if they get all the support that they deserve, they can really achieve their highest goals, which is obviously to make the All Blacks.
Absolutely. Second book, Heroics and Heartbreak, 12 months with the All Blacks. What was the spin on this book? Was this snippets from your journalistic days of those 12 months, or was it actually spending it with the All Blacks?
Well, it's a bit of both, actually. I mean, I think what happened was I finished Brothers in Black, and the publishers were pretty happy with how it had all gone, and they sort of turned around and said, "Have you got any other ideas?" And
that's what you want to hear.
I said, "Well, it was fantastic. It was exactly what I wanted to hear," and because I did have an idea, which it was actually the first idea for a book that I had. So Brothers in Black was Alan and Unwin came to me and said, "We'd like you to write this book," and I was like, "Oh, this is great." But my original plan was to do the book that became Heroics and Heartbreak, from spending a year with the All Blacks, because I'd already planned on spending that year with them, and then write it over the last summer just gone, and then shop it around to publishing places. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can get this kind of signed off right now. And I said, well, I've been with the All Blacks since the Northern Tour last year, and I'll be with them all the way through to the World Cup. And I think it'd be really interesting to just write a book about what it's like to actually be with them the whole time from the perspective of a journalist. And they said, well, that sounds great. Let's do that. And it all got signed off and everything. And then it was quite funny, because a couple of months later they came in and said, "Oh, they're going to win, right?" I said, at the time I was like, "Oh, yeah. They're in great form." And then, right up until the World Cup, it was it actually had a different name.
I bet it did. I was just about to ask that.
Yeah, it was called Chasing Glory, and the color of the lettering on the front was gold, obviously. Yeah. And then when they ended up losing, finally we decided to change it to Heroics and Heartbreak, and we changed the color from gold to bronze, which makes more sense.
It does.
But I just it's kind of a compilation of stuff that I wrote and had published on various news websites, but it's obviously very much expanded on. When you're writing for a news site, you have to kind of keep each piece to about 600 words. So I expanded a lot out on those things to sort of form each chapter, and focused on some really key events like, the All Blacks India tour in 2018, and then going with them over to Argentina as well, and then what that pretty crazy game in Perth where they got whipped by the Wallabies, and then through to the World Cup, and it was quite the ride as well. And it's not just about rugby. It's about like what it's like to be on the road and sort of sacrifices that you're making and the culture that you encounter and the trials and tribulations, because it's not a smooth path. And I think actually them losing kind of made the book make a lot more sense, because I got pretty critical of the All Blacks over the last year, and if they'd just won, it would have just made me look like just a total whinger. So if now, because they've lost and you read it, a lot of it's like, well, it all ties back to like, well, this happened and this happened, and Mackenzie getting injured and Artie and Sam Cane sort of moving around the back row and that like sort of thing. You're like, well, now it all starts to make sense as to why they lost. So yeah, I'm not saying I'm happy that they lost. I'd much rather they'd won, but I guess from a book writing point of view, it sort of made it into a kind of a more logical book.
Yeah. And lastly, mate, you've got one coming out. You're keeping busy. You're keeping busy with the words. This time, August the 6th, Facing the Haka. Now, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, after Heartbreak and Heartbreak came out, we sort of decided after I'd just written a book slagging them off, NZ Rugby. A guy I know at NZ Rugby said we'd like you to co-author this book with me, and his name's Andy Burt. He's a Hutt Valley man himself, so he's based down in Wellington. He came to me after the All Blacks draw with the Springboks last year in Wellington and said, what do you think of an idea for a book where we talk about what it's like to play for the All Blacks from the opposition's point of view, and how it would be to face the Haka and then play them in a game, and we'd focus on like wins and losses and career highlights. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds great. And he said, we want to make it into like a coffee table book with all these awesome photos. And I could just totally see it in my mind, like what it looks like. And so as soon as finished Heartbreak and Heartbreak, got straight onto this one. And yeah, it's a hardback coffee table book, so different from the other two. And it just contains a whole bunch of stories of some great All Black tests and Black Ferns and Sevens as well. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. I was telling you before, I got my advanced copy just the other day, and it's sitting in front of me right now, and it just looks really, really nice. Like, it's like 300 pages long. It's full of these massive color photos, and I'm so stoked about it. It's not something that I'd had on my radar that I would have completed sort of this early on, but like I'm holding it right now and I'm like, wow, I can't believe we actually made this happen. It only took 9 months, and most of that was just kind of waiting around for the deal to get signed off. And Andy and I wrote it over summer, and obviously had a few kind of hiccups with the current situation with COVID-19, but it's there, and it'll be on shelves in August, and just in time for Father's Day. So if you're looking for a gift for your old man or your partner or whatever, like this is it.
Excellent. Is there anything you can share from it now, mate, with your advanced copy?
Yeah, I can. What do you? Actually, I'll ask you a question. We've divided it up into chapters of famous Haka and Haka responses. What's one that sticks out for you? And I'll tell you whether it's in here or not.
Oh, me personally, I will never forget standing in Dublin watching New Zealand versus the All Blacks in, I think, 2005 when they had the new one, Kapaopoanga, is it? Yeah.
Yep, Kapaopoanga. Yep, that is definitely there. That is chapter number 10. Yes, that was actually probably... It's interesting that it's the first one that's top of mind for you, because it was definitely top of mind for us.
Yep.
We had to tell the story of Kapaopoanga in here, and it's awesome that it sticks out for so many people because I was sitting in the rugby club, Pornicky and Kabuni, and I remember, and nobody knew Nobody knew what they were going to do, and that was the best thing about it. They didn't come out with a press release and say, "Oh, we're going to do like a new, we've got something cooking behind the scenes or whatever," and the whole place just went nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the other thing about it. So this chapter is just about that and about how it came about, and I can read you from the composer himself. He said, the All Blacks wanted a haka that said who they were, where they were from, and to create a legacy they wanted to leave future All Blacks. Kapaopango is about a group of young men that wanted to express themselves during the haka, and my job was to compose actions for that particular expression. It's about them. It talks about, this is my time in the black jersey. This is my time to express myself as a player on behalf of my country. And I think that's really important because, the kamiti haka that we're so familiar with isn't actually like a rugby haka. It's to do with the Ngāti Toa tribe, which is, based north of Wellington up on the coast there around Porirua area. And it predates, rugby. I think it actually predates, New Zealand being colonised. So to actually have a specific haka about for the All Blacks themselves is really special, and it also sets down a marker that whenever they perform it, they're like, this is a really important test match for us as well. So yeah, that chapter is definitely in there. It's got a full translation of Kapaopango as well, and some cool photos of that game, because it actually ended up being a really exciting test match. The All Blacks won 31-27. Was down in Carisbrook against the Springboks, and it's really the other thing that really stuck out for me about that, and something that we've tried to include in the book as well, is that they saved it for the Springboks because that is the biggest rivalry that the All Blacks have, and it's the most special one for them. So I thought that was really cool as well.
Brilliant. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time today. Lastly, where can the people get hold of it? How can they? What are your handles? How can they follow you on social, etc.?
You can get any of the books at all good bookstores now that you're allowed to go shopping again. But they are also available online if you go to Book Depository or Amazon or anything like that. Just Google my name, Jamie Wall Rugby, and you'll be able to find all of them there. You can follow me on Twitter at Jamie Wall 2. That's probably the social channel that I'm most active on. I like to put up lots of rugby highlights on there. So if you like seeing old school fights and tries and stuff, you can come and check that out. But I'm based up in Auckland, and if I'm hoping to get along to as many of these upcoming Super Rugby games as we can. I think that they'll be letting crowds in a lot quicker than people might think. So that's something that we can all look forward to, and hopefully get club rugby going again.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, I look forward to catching up sooner than later, mate. Definitely not another decade. Keep up the good work, mate. I will keep on following you, and hopefully we can talk some super pretty soon.
No doubt. Thanks for having me on, mate. Take it easy.